What's going on, party people? It's your boy Yellaboi, and I know it's been a while. Happy Memorial Day from Bros, Brews, and Botches. Um, solo, solo on here. Also for our friends in the UK, happy Bank Day. I know y'all having a great day. Hope everyone's eating some barbecue, hanging out at the pool, doing some other stuff. But we're here to talk about AEW Double or Nothing that came on last night. And it was a show. Like, it was long. I know there was a lot of online critiquing about how long that show was, but at least for me, it didn't seem like it went on super long. So, of course, before we get started, make sure that you like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. Also, make sure that even though we're not putting out as much content because life, make sure you're following us on at least Instagram, where we post all of our results for the Graps. So, all the results for every show, or mostly every show, is on our Instagram page, which you'll see down in the corner over there. So, um, before I get started as well, I'm gonna make this short and sweet. The show that is, as I look at my phone for notes. Um, Real quick, seen a post through Fightful. If you're watching Raw tonight, big news: Becky Lynch has not signed a new contract yet. They're in negotiations, so not sure if she's going to re-sign, but her current contract ends on June the 1st. She is scheduled tonight to have a cage match, return match for the title with Liv Morgan tonight. So, will this be the last match for Becky Lynch? I don't know. It's scheduled to be the main event, so I'm not going to be on here long so that those of you who are racing to get to the Raw for tonight, you'll be able to see it. So, and seeing as how Double or Nothing was double the time, I'll try to get through a lot as quickly as possible. So, um, I guess we'll start with the pre-show, the buy-in, and on that buy-in, there were only two matches. So the first match up would be um, the women's match between Thunder Rosa and Deonna Purrazzo. It really and truly, it didn't need to be on the show. The show was long as it is, but they have to do what they got to do to get more women, which I'm a big advocate for women on the show. So it was a lot of methodical focusing on the injured shoulder and the injured leg. Um, but in the end, like I said, I'm gonna go through this quick. But in the end, Deonna Purrazzo held on to the bottom rope without the ref seeing to gain the pin over Thunder Rosa. So I guess this feud will continue between Thunder Rosa and Deonna Purrazzo. I don't know if that means that Britt Baker, who's been out for quite some time, is going to come back. There hasn't been any reports about her coming back. She was not reported to be in Las Vegas this weekend for Double or Nothing. So I don't know when or if she's coming back, but it would make sense with the previous feud that Thunder Rosa had with Britt Baker to jump back in with Deonna Purrazzo and have something there. Seeing as how there's going to be more women's stories on AEW, maybe that's something that can bring her back. After that, there was a segment with Amped Up Tony Khan bringing out Dr. Martha White and announcing the next tournament, the Owen Hart tournament. And this year it has stakes. We all love stakes. So this year, instead of just getting the titles or the de facto titles and the trophy that they normally get for winning the tournament, this year they actually will receive a championship, the winners of the men's and the women's tournament. they will get a chance at the championship or World Heavyweights Championship of their, distinct gender at All in Wembley, which that's awesome because it just seemed like those tournaments were kind of arbitrary and they'd have them, they would be good, but it was like they held up a belt that really didn't mean anything aside from the name of Owen Hart, and it didn't have real stakes to it. So they said that they will have the finals of that tournament on July the 10th, I believe. Yes, July the 10th in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And then those two individuals winning the tournament will go on to All In, which leads to the last match on the buy in. Woohoo. The last match on the buy in was a 6-man tag between the Acclaim, you know, Max Caster, Anthony Bowen, Billy Gunn versus the Cage of Agony, renamed whenever Brian Cage is along with the Gates of Agony, Bishop Khan and Toa Leona, which they're big hosses in that match, big guys doing big guy things. Um, but in the end, along with the NHL mascot for Las Vegas, Chance, the I think it's a snake. I think he grabbed a chair and prevented the Cage of Agony to use the chair, which allowed for the Guns to defeat the Cage of Agony and roll us into the main show, which, again, for what it's worth, people, this show, of course, like the main show started at 8 o'clock Eastern, and it didn't end till about 12:30. So that's 4.5 of the main show. And I know a lot of people were talking about how bad it was and how it, in comparison to King and Queen of the Ring on Saturday, it was a whole lot longer. And I think whenever WWE and AEW has these pay-per-views or PLEs on the same weekend, it can lead to fatigue for those who watch both. Uh, but I always felt like watching it last night, um, the Double or Nothing show, that it went by rather quick. But that's just for me, and I know other people don't feel that way. And it felt like they had different styles of matches throughout the night, enough to kind of keep my attention. And then it didn't hurt that the crowd in Las Vegas was completely for the entire night. So that made the night go a whole lot quicker. When the crowd's into it, it's great. When not, it's like that Revolution show that me, OHB, and Hogs Wars always talks about, where it was just, it just went on forever. This show didn't feel like that. So the first show on the main show, repetitive, it was the international championship between the champion Roderick Strong and the challenger Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay is so over. Like, he is completely over. Um, he is one of the, if not the best wrestler in AEW right now. And I know that's kind of debatable, controversial statement, if you will. But I want to say, because of that crowd support, he's one of the best wrestlers AEW has. So he went up against Roderick Strong. Of course, Roderick Strong brought out the Undisputed Kingdom. Um, that would be Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. They came out along with them, and they got dispatched pretty quickly by Billy the Goat, as he did like a frontward flip senton into them as they were outside the ring, taking them out. There was a spot that was really crazy where the Undisputed Kingdom, Matt Taven, Bennett, had Billy Goat up on like a doomsday device outside the ring. And of course, the referee, blind, blind to it. Like, I seen so many memes last night with like the Bird Box meme where she was blindfolded and such, because um, Matt Taven ran and hit the ropes right beside the referee where the referee could clearly see him, but they went and did this doomsday, like a diving tope suicida type doomsday device on Osprey, and turned him inside out, and almost like it just looked bad because it looked like Osprey hit his head, but he sold it rather well. Um, Roderick Strong, always with Roderick Strong match, you always get those heavy chops and backbreakers, all styles of backbreakers, and you could see welts on Osprey's chest. But Osprey being Osprey, he's going for like hidden blades here. And like there came a time in the match because Don Callis, who was booed heavily, was at ringside on commentary, and there was a part in the match where Billy Goat kind of hesitated, and he was going to hit the Tiger Driver 91, but because he said that he had retired it after doing what he did to Brian Danielson, who completely fine. I mean, after all that with the last pay per view, and oh, Brian's injured, or you got to, he's completely fine. So I don't know why Osprey is still holding off on doing the Tiger Drive. But I digress, as Taz would say, that he hesitated, and Don Callis was just pushing him and pushing him to go ahead and do it. He hesitated, but it still didn't damage anything. I mean, Roderick Strong capitalized in the moment, but really not, because it was a Stormbreaker 1, 2, 3. Will Ospreay is the new international champion. I can still see the seeds of the dissension, or whatever you want to call it, between Don Callis and Will Ospreay to, get the United Kingdom back. Um, Not sure if Kyle Fletcher's tag partner is well yet. There haven't been any reports on him, but it's been almost a year, which they said it would take to have him return. So maybe they'll come back as a group against the Don Callis family, because it just doesn't look like the Don Callis family is having that momentum. And I'll talk about that more when we get to another match. So after that, I don't know. In my opinion, it might have kind of stunted Will Ospreay's win because it's his first championship in AEW. But right after he won, Adam Cole came out, and I know that the Undisputed Kingdom was out there, but they just kind of slithered away. And Adam Cole came out to cut a promo in ring, and he cuts a promo, tearing down the fans and all of that. And then the lights hit, and we watch a vignette going down what I might think is an illustrious hallway. If that is the house of one Maxwell Jacob Freeman, it is a very big house. It's a mansion, if you will. But we go down the hallway and we look at like kind of keepsakes and such, which I don't know if it's a full gimmick change for MJF, but you kind of had all of his old, belongings. You see a Nightmare Family T-shirt. You see some of the items from his past, and on a mannequin, he's got his suit with the Burberry scarf. And then the video cuts, lights go out, or lights come back on. Adam Cole standing in the ring, music hits, crowd pops big, and MJF comes out in his best Triple H cosplay from 2002 when he made the return from the double quad surgery, and had the jean vest and jacket or whatnot coming out, looking jacked and super tan. Like usually I rag on MJF's spray tan and his hands don't really look great, but he's got like a tan all over. He's actually more dark than I am. So I guess welcome to the black community, MJF, question mark? No. But he comes out, and at some point he gets in the ring with Adam Cole. Adam Cole is being a sniveling heel, and he wants to get an embrace from MJF. MJF goes in like he's about to hug, and then kicks him. Then MJF kicks Adam Cole right in the penis, which, I get a pop out of every time I see somebody get kicked in the penis. I was calling it as we were watching it. Um, then he then MJF hits Adam Cole with a brainbuster and kind of sends him on his way. So while I don't think Adam Cole is 100% healed because he didn't do anything on his feet, he was able to take a brainbuster. So maybe it's getting closer for Adam Cole to come back. I don't know where that's going to go with his Undisputed Kingdom. It's kind of dead in the water right now with that, only because of all the injuries with him and MJF being out. But MJF then cuts an impassioned promo. Like, the guy was spitting fire. He was talking about he's not doing any more BS gimmicks anymore. He's not going to be doing all this friendship stuff or whatnot. He's just going to wrestle. But then he hits a he hits a Ric Flair esque move where like Adam Cole had brought in the devil mask. And that was one of the things MJF said he was not going to do anymore. The devil mask. He doesn't need a mask. He said only cowards hide behind masks. And so he throws off his jacket and vest, similar to what Ric Flair used to do, and then hit the ropes, did a Ric Flair walk, and hit an elbow drop on the mask. And yeah, which was funny because a lot of people, always compare MJF to a lot of the wrestlers of the past, including Ric Flair. So the important thing was that he had said that one of the wrestlers that had taught him had told him one thing, and he reveals a tattoo on the back of his right calf that has a poker chip with AEW on it that said "Bet on yourself." So him quoting a line from Wolf of Wall Street saying that he wasn't effing going nowhere, um, meaning that he's not leaving AEW for WWE like a lot of people had thought, because there was a lot of people, in January that said he was going to be at the Royal Rumble. But apparently, from what I'd heard on Fightful, he had already signed his contract to stay with AEW a long time ago. It's just that he was going with the storyline. So MJF staying with AEW, that was a big return in itself. Then you go over to the next match, which was the uh, trios match for the unified trios belts. I don't know what they're doing with those things. Like the Bang Bang Gang, Jay White, Austin Gunn, Colton Gunn, they have all these belts. That's one of the big complaints, and I even complain about it, that AEW has too many belts. And just for these guys doing the trios titles, they have between them what, like, three belts apiece. Okay, like, truly unify those, because it's the ROH, it's the AEW trios, and then they have the old modified trios belts from the Acclaim, which that's who they faced for this match. The Acclaim, or excuse me, no. They faced the Triangle, the reunified Death Triangle, which is the Bastard Pack, Penta, El Cero Miedo, and Rey Phoenix, which always good to see Ray and Penta in a match because they are just awesome at what they do. This was no different. And I heard somebody say it was the battle of who has the best entrance, because the Bang Bang Gang has that dope entrance, and then the Death Triangle has like that dope entrance where they're panning the camera to the different members standing in the different entryways. And I remember Ray Phoenix slipped a little bit on his, not very graceful, but he got the job done. But it was a good match. Like I said, Death Triangle did what they normally do with the high spots, and then you have Pac in there doing Pac moves. They had the combo moves with them. Um, Big ups to Colton and Austin Gunn bumping around, because, like, at first people gave them a lot of crap for their lack of experience, but they've kind of blossomed and grown, and they've kind of grown into their own. And apparently, the Bang Bang Gang is no longer being referred to as Bullet Club Gold, just the Bang Bang Gang, which brings me to the conclusion of this match with another return, which was Rock Hard Juice Robinson coming back to cause the interference for the Bang Bang Gang namely Jay White hitting this Blade Runner to secure the win for the heel. So I don't know if the Death Triangle is going to continue to go on as a trios, but it's good to see Juice Robinson back looking like the Honeycomb Gremlin. So we move on to the next match, which it kind of started out real slow, like the fans didn't get into it immediately, which was the Women's World AEW World Championship against challenger Serena Deeb and champion Tony Storm, excuse me, timeless Tony Storm, who, it was more of a technical bout, which that's kind of what you want to see. It was a women's bout, it was technical. It's Serena Deeb, and she's going to be real technical. Like, she played the role, even though she was the face, the crowd made her the heel because they were booing her and cheering Tony Storm. And Serena Deeb was focused in on the leg so that she could lock in a submission. And there was a moment where she had locked in a submission on Tony Storm. And on the outside, you had Luther, and you also had Mariah May, and Mariah May had a towel. So if you cast your mind back a few weeks, um, Mariah May was in a match, and to kind of keep her safe, or in her own mind, keep her safe, Tony Storm threw in the towel for Mariah May to, lose. So Mariah May grabbed the towel and was going to throw in the towel on Tony Storm, but Luther had stopped her. And of course, Tony Storm was able to get out of the hold from Deeb. And then Tony Storm ended up blaming Luther. So we see that dissension. I don't know if it'll lead to a title match eventually with Mariah May, and if Mariah May will win, because I don't know what the schedule for Jamie Hayter is to come back. People are thinking that Jamie Hayter may come back, and they want her to be back before the All In Wembley show. So, in between Mariah May and Jamie Hayter, or even a three-way with that, we'll see. But the match goes on, and it concludes with your champion Tony Storm not only hitting the Storm Zero, but hitting the Storm Zero from the top rope. I was watching with OHB, and OHB had called it. He said, "Oh, she's about to hit her with a pile driver from the top rope." And she hits her with the Storm Zero from the top, and then she hits her with another package Storm Zero to secure the win and remain champion. So, title stayed in hands there, leads us to the next match, which, in my estimation, this match could have been on a Collision, could have been on Rampage, maybe Dynamite, but it was Trent Beretta and Orange Cassidy in a one-on-one wrestling match, or it was supposed to be a wrestling match, but it started out like a hockey fight because they were just punching each other. Um, yeah, I'll just get to the end because it ended up with like a roll up for Orange Cassidy to win. But the bigger thing is when the match was over, Trent walked out. Well, first he was sitting in the ring looking very dejected. Then he goes out of the ring, and Rocky Romero and Renee Paquette tried to come up, and Renee was trying to get an interview, but he pushed Rocky Romero, and he just told Renee that he, he couldn't do this, and he was done. Which I don't know if that means he's done with AEW, done with this feud, please God, or what. So maybe in the weeks to come, we'll find out what he means by he's done. So there was that. Moving on to the next match, which was a triple threat match between, it was for the FTW, or as he calls it, for the world, which that's not what it means. But the FTW Championship, the champion, the Learning Tree, Chris Jericho, against Katsuyori Shibata and Hook. It was a little fun match. Um, Somehow, Chris Jericho is getting this gimmick over as far as him being the Learning Tree, because he's being very disingenuous as he's, you know, saying hello to the crowd, and he's like, "Thank you," and they may be yelling at him, "Please retire," and he's like, "Yeah, I know, I'm going to retire one day, and I'll be in the Hall of Fame," still doing that kind of nonsense. He was getting this stuff rocked. I almost said a bad word. He was getting this stuff rocked at the beginning because Shibata and Hook were working as a team, until it didn't, and of course, eventually, Big Bill had came out to help. Big Bill almost died last night, y'all. Like, if you go back and look at the video or look at the pictures, there was a table spot that Hook threw Big Bill through a table on the outside, and one of the legs of the table popped through the table upright and could have impaled Big Bill, as like the the leg was, I'd say, like a centimeter away from his face and head. So yeah, that was a spot. But the match, the conclusion of the match had a man in a mask come in and get involved and help Chris Jericho to retain the FTW belt. Who was this mystery man? It was Brian Keith, the bounty hunter Brian Keith. I forgot to mention there were like there was a spot in the match where um, there were dice used in the match instead of thumbtacks. So there's a bunch of die in the ring and stuff like that. But and kendo sticks were also used in the match as well. But that's nothing in comparison to what happens later in the match. But the bounty hunter Brian Keith causes both Shibata and Hook to lose, and apparently that means that Brian Keith is now under the learning tree of Chris Jericho, which Brian Keith was doing okay by himself. Why he needs Chris Jericho, I don't know. I mean, why does Big Bill need Chris Jericho? Big Bill was a tag team champion. He does not need Chris Jericho, but Chris Jericho has to go on to do what Chris Jericho does, and he reinvents himself and all that stuff. So apparently, this will continue. Then after this, one of the one of the next matches, it was the championship eliminator match, which kind of doesn't make sense. And this is what I talked about earlier when I was talking about the Don Callis family. So it was Konosuke Takeshita against John Moxley, and if Takeshita won, he would receive a shot at the New Japan Pro Wrestling World Championship, even though, like, one, Takeshita isn't even a New Japan wrestler. I mean, neither is John Moxley for that matter, but it should have been for the title, maybe, but it was a match that you thought it would be. There was like a lot of just chops, brutal hits, suplexes. I personally don't like the outcome of it. I really wish that, like, in the end, it was um it was again one of those interference type deals where a chair was introduced into the ring, and Takeshita ended up, it was a chair introduced in the ring by, I think, Don Callis, but Takeshita didn't capitalize on it, and he got hit with the Death Rider for on the chair for Don Cal, or excuse me, for Takeshita to lose and John Moxley to win, which means Takeshita doesn't get a championship match. So what was the point? Like I said, I think it should have been a championship match in itself. And Takeshita, there shouldn't be any reason why Takeshita should lose. So what does this put the Don Callis family? I mean, the only thing that I can see out of it is that you have all this losing streak, and you have Will Osprey, who won, who is technically in the Don Callis family, and with him winning and looking at everybody else losing, he could, distance himself because he doesn't want to be associated with folks who don't win. So we'll see. But John Moxley for the win. Moving right along, the next match, you have the um, barbed wire steel cage match between Malachi Black, honoring the House of Black, and the Brood version of Adam Copeland. Um, he had all the fire, and he came up out of the floor, kind of like his old entrance when he was with the Brood, and he had on the red outfit and such, and like there was a lot of blood in this match. I mean, as you would think that there would be because there was barbed wire. Um, Adam Copeland took a nasty bump. He wrapped Malachi Black in barbed wire on a table, and then he went to the top of the cage. And like I thought he was gonna do like a splash, but he just kind of jumped straight down and like hit him with an elbow. And I don't know. At the end of the match, he was limping, so I don't know if that's a legit injury. I'm gonna have to look at the reports and stuff, or if it was kayfabe. But it just looked awkward because like usually when somebody does an elbow from off of a high spot, they lay out so they can get more of their body, hitting the person and it's not taking, one part taking the brunt, or they're doing a splash so they can have the same thing. He just jumped off and just hit a little elbow and broke the table and all that. So it was really strange. Um, of course, there was a moment in the match where Buddy Matthews and Brody King came down to the mat or came down to the ring, and at first they looked like they were going to turn on Malachi Black, but then they kind of swerved the fans and everybody and started beating up on Adam Copeland. They bring him in the ring, and then like the lights start flickering red and music starts playing, and like Malachi Black is looking around because on Wednesday he got hit with a bloodbath, so he's wondering if a bloodbath is going to happen. And lo and behold, the ring opens up, and it's good old David Heath or Gangrel comes out of the ring, and he's doing, he's spraying folks with blood in the face, and he even gets to hit his Impaler DDT. But then he gets dispatched real quick by Malachi Black hitting him with the end, and um, but it was enough for Adam Copeland. I almost called him Edge. I have such an issue not calling him Edge because he's been Edge for the longest. But Adam Copeland was able to hit a spear and be able to retain the TNT because it was for the TNT championship. But it was really fun to see him and Gangrel because at the end of the match, him and Gangrel shared a little hug, and then Gangrel had to help him out of the ring and help him to the back. So that was good to see. It was another little surprise, but I think everybody kind of guessed that Gangrel would show up on the show, seeing as how there was a bloodbath that happened on Wednesday. So I don't know if this means that Malachi Black is because you got a lot of people. Malachi needs to go back to WWE and that kind of deal. I don't know. I don't know what his contract looks like and if he's going to be able to go back or anything like that, or if he wants to go back. I think at the end of the day, wrestlers should be able to wrestle where they want to, um, not based upon where we think they should go as fans, but where they want to wrestle and they feel most comfortable. As I was talking to OHB, I felt like Adam Copeland is living his best life in AEW because he's doing a lot of spots that he wouldn't be able to do in WWE. It's kind of like how Sting was before Sting retired. Like no one ever seen Sting jumping off of everything, landing head first off of everything, and then he gets to AEW and he just becomes a daredevil. And he's just jumping off of stuff. He's doing all these spots, and I'm like, I've never seen Sting do this. So it Adam Copeland almost did it again. He's doing the same thing. So yeah, I don't know where that's going to go if that's done, and if we're going to get another storyline between Adam Copeland and Christian, or what's going to happen. But it was good to see good old Gangrel, David Heath, back out there. So the next match, it starts up the triple main event, which this one is for the TBS championship with the champion Willow Nightingale versus the debuting her first in-ring performance Mercedes Monet, the CEO, who got a WrestleMania style entrance with a vignette package of, be the change you want to see. I thought they were going to lead that right into CEO, but they didn't. They had like uh, not a marching band, but like it was drummers that came out and they were, had on like had on outfits and stuff. And then she had like Vegas showgirls come out for her to come out and do her CEO gimmick. And then like Willow Nightingale just had a regular entrance. So if that didn't tell you who was possibly winning from that, I don't know. But she came out. Willow Nightingale came out with Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway, which I had been saying for weeks on weeks that Statlander has been wearing a lot of black as of late, like dressed in this black attire. So I was like, is that a harbinger to come? But I think this is one of my favorite matches of the night. Like these two women put on a really good show. Between like Willow using her power and strength, and then Mercedes going through and doing some chain wrestling that she had been working on because she went over to Japan and started working on stuff, and she was in Mexico and she worked on stuff, so she was putting chain wrestling together, and she was focusing on Willow's ankle because that's the whole beef is that Monet got injured with that New Japan match and injured her ankle and took her out for a year. And then Willow started focusing on the ankle as well. Um, we got a doctor bomb though out the gate, a doctor bomb on the outside onto the ring apron, which if Willow would have just rolled her in, I think that should have been a win because her doctor bomb is her finish. But whatever, you get a whole match. There was a point in the match though with Stokely and Statlander on the outside, and like Mercedes Monet had pushed Statlander in the face and pushed her down, and then Statlander got on the apron and started, mouthing, and the ref came over, and then Stokely got up on the ring apron and started mouthing. While in the ring, you had Willow Nightingale hitting the doctor bomb again and getting a very visual 5 count, not just a 3 count, 5 count, and the ref didn't see it, only coming back to get two, which played into the ending. Um, well, the post match, I should say, played into that as Willow Nightingale ended up getting hit by Mercedes Monet's finisher. I can't remember what it's called. It's really difficult for her to pull off. Like she had to do it out of the corner. Um, and when there's a opponent that's a little bit bigger than she is, well, let's just face it, there's a lot of wrestlers that are bigger than Mercedes Monet, but when she's got a larger opponent like Willow Nightingale, it's kind of hard to pull the move off. But she hit it. She wins the TBS championship. I kind of wish that Willow would have held on to it. We all knew that with Mercedes, with Mercedes coming in, she was going to get championship gold. The fear was that she was going to go straight into the world championship picture, but again, I think they're saving that world championship picture for a returning Jamie Hayter at All In, if possible. But we shall see. But post match, like Mercedes doesn't even get her shine in the ring because I mean, she usually plays the crowd up where she's doing her CEO stuff the entire like a whole 5-10 minutes doing the dance. Which if you go on YouTube or Twitter or social media, you'll see a good showing of Will Ospreay and Mercedes Monet backstage doing that dance or whatnot in celebration to them winning their championships. But post match of that, Willow's in the ring and Chris Statlander comes in to console her, and then Stokely Hathaway just has had it. He's just going after Willow. He's yelling at her, berating her and stuff like that. And Statlander pushes Stokely. So you're like, okay. And then they go out the ring, and as they're walking up the ramp, Statlander just face drives Willow into the ramp, like pulls her hair back and just slams her into the ramp, which brings a smile to Stokely. And boom, you have a Statlander heel turn. So I guess now they'll have a rivalry, but I don't know who's up next for Mercedes Moné. And more importantly, I don't know if Mercedes Moné is a heel or face because she was really doing heelish mannerisms and promos and stuff with Willow because Willow's like the ultimate baby face. So I don't know who would be up next. You still have Julia, who got injured and would want to come back for her championship. You also have Sky Blue out there looming somewhere that could possibly go for that championship. Um, so I don't know. You got Mercedes Monet as champion, so maybe she's more on TV, and maybe they'll make more stories for women and not just deadlock them into having just one match on Dynamite. Maybe there's going to be two matches on Dynamite that are women's matches, so maybe we'll see that change. Next up, the second out of three main event matches, you had the AEW Championship match between the champion Swerve Strickland and you had the challenger Christian Cage. I mean, let's give it up for Christian Cage. I mean, he's in amazing shape, and Swerve is definitely over with the fans, and he's the champion that the fans should have. Um, but I don't know. There was something about this match that was left on the table for me. I don't know. You had, of course, the patriarchy outside the ring for Christian Cage, which was Luchasaurus, um, Nick Wayne, and Nick Wayne's mom. They were all outside, and of course, they continuously, interfered in the match. You had Prince Nana, who, for what it's worth, during the entrance for Swerve, did a great rendition of the Warriors. He had the bottles on his finger, and he was Swerve, come out and play it. He was doing that before the entrance and everything. And Swerve came in with his best cosplay of the Warriors movie. Go look it up if you don't know. But it was it like I said, there was just something that was missing. I don't know if it's because of Christian Cage or what. Like, this is the first campaign that Swerve is doing after becoming the champion. And while Christian Cage is a great competitor, I just don't know. I mean, maybe if it was possibly Hangman, and maybe we'll see Hangman Page come back pretty soon. But maybe, ultimately, I think, and people are saying that maybe they'll have Swerve versus Will Ospreay at All In, so that Will Ospreay becomes the champion. And while I don't necessarily want to see that, I do understand because Will Ospreay is also over, and what I guess what a better way to crown him a champion than to do it in Wembley in London. But I don't know. Um, Anywho, despite all the interference that happened during the match, and despite one of the worst like stomps that I've ever seen on the outside, like they were trying to do like Christian was trying to do his kill switch onto Swerve on one of the announce tables. Unlike on Saturday, I think it was, where the table completely fell apart, Swerve did his swerve stomp on Christian and just planted him on it just like it gave out none. It was an I am the table spot. Which we had another I am the table spot earlier in the night with I think it was the first match, but no, it was the Christian, or excuse me, it was the Chris Jericho match where we had the I am the table spot. But yeah, through all the outside help and stuff like that, Swerve Strickland still retained his championship, hitting the house call. He hit a awesome house call before he hit a standard one. I think Christian was going in for a spear, and Swerve was able to hit him with a house call as he was running in, and then he set him up for another house call to get the pin. So Swerve's still the champ. Again, I don't know who the next contender will be. Um, I hope Hangman Page comes back because there's still a lot of stuff there. But the main event of this show, and what a bonkers main event it was the Anarchy in the Arena match that I thoroughly enjoyed. Now, if you're of a certain vintage of wrestling fan, this may be for you. Um, it was overbooked to hell. So if you're not a big fan of overbooking, then probably may not like this. And still, for some of you, because your dislike for the Young Bucks, may not like it because of that. I found this match super entertaining. You had the Young Bucks, Kazuchika Okada, and Jack Perry taking on Team AEW of FTR, Dax and Cash, um, Brian Danielson, and Darby Allen, which just over the top. Like anytime you do Anarchy in Arena, like last year they had John Moxley come out and they played Wild Thing forever. Well, they kind of subverted that this year, where the Young Bucks came out and did their stuff, and of course Jack Perry was the last one. But then you had who was it? The last person to come out? I think it was Darby Allen, and they cut his music so that Matthew Jackson could make the announcement to cut on the best music that you could ever put on, which was their new music, which that music came on. And then Brian Danielson ended up getting the mic and saying, cut that SH1T and play the best song that anyone could ever wrestle to in the world, which was the Final Countdown. And they played that until Matthew Jackson finally got a mic in a shoot. Um, no, he didn't come out to Triple H's theme. He came out to Aristio. He came out to his own theme, but he was dressed in like Triple H from 2002 with the jean jacket and everything. So he didn't come out to his theme. He came out to his own music, but he came out looking like Triple H. And like if you remember from 2002, Triple H was super jacked. So like MJF was super jacked and tan. Again, very very tan. So maybe he took the time on his time off and getting surgery that he was somewhere where there was lots of sun. But yeah, he didn't come out to the actual thing. But speaking of themes, in a shoot, like I said, Matthew Jackson got back on the mic as Final Countdown was playing, and he said, "Turn it off, turn it off. It costs me $200,000 each time the song loops, and you know we're on a budget." And actually, that's a shoot. It does cost them $200,000 for the rights to playing Final Countdown, which, oh my gosh. But apparently, the Khan family has that money. They got that bread, so they can spend a little bit to be able to see that or play that. But the match just started instantaneously because as the heels came out, they stopped at the bottom of the ramp, to be heels. Wait, about to have the entrances for all the baby faces. The baby faces just came out the crowd and just started whooping up on them, and then it was just like true anarchy where people were fighting everywhere. The cameras didn't really, production has to get better because there were spots that got missed. And that's usually a usual. I mean, I'm kind of used to it with AEW, but there were spots that got missed. And I think it brings like an old WCW flair to it, though, where the camera's somewhere else and you hear the person get hit, but you don't see it on camera. And then it goes back. And like they at one point had they had split screens 4 split screens on the screen to kind of track it, but they didn't do it a lot. Um, People were fighting in the crowds. Darby did a coffin drop from the balcony area onto a bunch of folks. Then he got into an altercation in the back with Jack Perry. Him and Jack Perry brawled all the way to the back to an outside area where Darby got hit in the stomach with a pipe, metal pipe. Also, Darby Allin was wearing like a face mask because of his broken nose that was adorned with thumbtacks on it. Um, but he goes out in the back with Jack Perry. He throws Jack Perry into a tub of ice water that was keeping waters cold, but that was kind of done to set up a spot for later, dunking Jack Perry, kind of drowning Jack Perry for a little while. But then they get out of there and they're in the back by the production trucks. And there's like a pile of pallets and trash and stuff like that. And that's where the metal pipe comes in. And Darby gets hit with the metal pipe, cuts back to the arena where all the carnage is going on. And then when it cuts back to them in the back, you don't necessarily see where Allen is in the trash pile. But I heard that MJF got a tramp stamp of Tony. He may do, like right above the butthole. I mean, I don't know. I haven't heard that being reported, but he may do. Uh, but you don't see where Darby Allin is, but get the visual of a bus, like a small bus that has scapegoat written on it, and Jack Perry's in it driving, and he just hauls tail into the trash pile and wrecks the truck or wrecks the bus himself and looks like he's passed out or whatnot. You're assuming he's run over Darby Allin with a bus because if no one knows, when Darby Allin was in New York a couple weeks ago, he got hit by a bus, which is why he has the broken nose. So they're just playing off of that. You go back in, like you had all kinds of spots in this match. You had there was at one point an exploding chair, like one of the Jackson brothers hit FTR with an exploding chair. Um, you had Nick Jackson jumping off of the stage through a table set up. You had Okada jumping and doing a splash into somebody through a table. Then came the spot that was set up earlier, which made me laugh because, like, if you watched, was it Dynamite, where Darby Allin at the end of the show comes out with a freaking flamethrower after being dropped off by Tony Khan. So in the back, you see Jack Perry come back to life. He's just kind of walking through. He's about to go out on the stage, and then he gets a thought, and he turns right, and he goes and grabs Tony Khan, who's sitting at, I guess, gorilla position, if you will, and he grabs him, and he's dragging him out, and so Tony Khan comes out being dragged. Now, at this point, Jack Perry is completely wet. Like I said, he got dunked in that tub, but it was to set up something else. So out comes Darby Allin with a flamethrower once again, and he sets fire to Jack Perry's legs, which that's why he's all wet because he's got on the gel or whatnot to kind of keep his skin from burning and all of that. And the Young Bucks came out to immediately put him out with fire extinguishers. And um, what was funny, what I didn't see on TV, but I seen on social media, was Tony Khan doing the worst tumble and roll all the way down the ramp, and then just kind of ran off stage left to get out of there or whatnot. But he just rolled the entire ramp all the way down and then ran off. Um, then you had the spot where Okada put on a sleeve that had thumbtacks on it to hit a rainmaker. Then you had the most crazy spot where they tied up Darby Allin's legs, and then they hooked him to a crane, not a crane, but a rope that was coming that descended from the top of the arena, and then they hoisted him up. Then Okada grabbed a box of the new Reebok pumps that came out today for the Young Bucks, which on the bottom of them had thumbtacks, and they proceeded to, with a bloody Darby Allen, proceeded to do a super kick party while he was dangling upside down, and he stayed dangling upside down for what seemed like an eternity, to the point that the fans were cheering or chanting, "Please help Darby," because all of his blood had to have rushed from his head, and like, yeah, it was crazy. The finish came with Jack Perry actually hitting a psycho knee on Brian Danielson, which, you know, I guess Jack Perry heat confirmed. He needed it because when he was there before, him baby facing was fine, but then when he started turning heel, there was some things left to be desired. And now that he's with the quote unquote new elite, it's better for him. But like I said, it was fast paced, go go go. That Anarchy in Arena, there was so much going on. Like you felt like you missed it. I haven't got a chance to watch it back, but I do want to go back and watch it because I feel like I've missed just several spots in the match or whatnot. It was, to me, it was a lot of fun, but in the end, the Elite get the win over Team AEW. Where that puts them next, I don't know. I do know that the Motor City Machine Gun, sorry, they are in wait. So I don't know if that means that they may be up next and may be the ones to challenge the Young Bucks for the tag team championships, which I would be interested to see. That, that sounds like a main event match to me. Um, but I thought they would come out, since they had everybody else come out on this show. I thought they would come out too, but I guess they're holding them for later. I also would love, and like OHB made this suggestion. He said that he would love to see Keith Lee come back just to kind of be on the side of Swerve, since Swerve is kind of fighting everybody and he doesn't have anybody to back him up. Would love to see that if Keith Lee is well enough and he wants to. Love to see that. Um, but I'm interested to see how these stories, if you will, move on. I also do believe that AEW, they have to trim the fat on these pay-per-views, because East Coast 12:30, and then if you're watching post shows and stuff like that, it goes into 1 o'clock in the morning and so forth. For our friends across the pond, it's even earlier in the morning for you guys. So, sitting down essentially from 5:30 for me in Central, 5:30 to 11:30, that is a long sit. And it's like the old 2018 WrestleManias and pay-per-views from WWE back then. Like, that's way too long. Trim it down. I know you want all your folks on the show, but it looks like that y'all have increased the amount of pay-per-views that you're doing per year. So it's not like you're not going to have a chance to get other folks on the card for a pay-per-view. If you only have like a 3 hour show, even 3.5 hour show, that's fine. But I can't complain at the variety of matches that were on this pay-per-view. It was really fun. It went by quickly for me, but not for others. So, really good show. I don't really do a ratings thing because that's just not my bag. And with all the tribalism, I really don't want to do a ratings thing, because you vote, you give a rating one way, you disappoint one sector of fans. You rate it one other thing, you disappoint another set. I ain't into all that. I'm like, watch what you want to watch, like what you want to like, support the wrestlers who you love. That's all I say. Again, I know we don't do this a lot, and my original intention was to have Hogs Wars on here with me. Unfortunately, it's a holiday, so things happen. We still get this thing done. We're going to continue to try to do pay-per-view reviews. Now, I didn't do one for King and Queen of the Ring just because Saudi Arabia, so I don't ever do the post shows for those, but we want to do post shows for other pay per views if we can. Again, this ain't our first job. We don't usually have time to do a whole lot because of lifing. But when we can, we'll come on here and do a post show for you, the people, you people. But if you want to keep up with us in real time, all the time, please go check out our Instagram. It's down at the bottom, bros underscore brews underscore and underscore botches, where we'll put up the results for Monday Night Raw, NXT, AEW Dynamite, Ring of Honor, SmackDown, Rampage, and Collision. So that's 6 days a week where we're trying to put up those results. And if there's any big breaking news that I can get out and find while I'm at my regular job, I'll try to post those too as well. Yeah. So please follow us on those. Um, please make sure that you're liking this stream right here. If you're watching it on catch up, please make sure you're putting in comments. Those of you who have chatted, thank you so much who throwing in your chats, your live chats. Please support. If you want to find some Bros, Brews, and Botches merch, please go to our friends at Elevated. They are providing the merch for us. You can find a link to that on our link tree on our Bros, Brews, and Botches Instagram channel. And R.I.P. Bill Walton, who passed away earlier today due to his fight with cancer. As y'all know, that strikes really close to the heart with me because F cancer. So yeah, Bill Walton, NBA great, passed away earlier today. So prayers, positivity for family fans of him. But that's all I got, folks. Um, I am your boy Yellaboi. This is Bros, Brews, and Botches. And this has been the post show for us for AEW's Double or Nothing 2024. Make sure you keep on following us and supporting. And as always, you guys, we love you. Until the next time, y'all.